Okay, what it is. I'm gonna show you how to record some guitars that, like if you're not super great, like me, um, is how to make it sound like you're better than you are. So, if you're having a little bit of trouble playing some stuff like I am with this song, then you can bust out some tricks like this and make it sound like you don't have any issues at all. So this is how to get tight guitar tracks without being the best guitar player. So, I mean, I've practiced this song a bunch, but it's still not, I can't play it quite as, I'm not going to go play shows with this song or anything. Also, don't like editing. Editing sucks. It's kind of a losing game. Um, it's not going to sound as good as if you just played it right to begin with. So, I'm going to focus on tricks that are aimed at getting good takes from the outset so that you don't have to edit them. There might be a little bit of comping involved depending on how deeply you want to go with just redoing stuff over and over again till it sounds good. With these techniques, you can basically get things as tight as you want without having to fuck with anything. So it's kind of up to you how deep you want to go with this. Even if you happen to be a proficient player, I encourage you to try a lot of these tricks out because you're probably not as good as you think you are. And this will be like that last step to getting you to where you're as good as you think you are. You can actually be that good and actually sound that good on your recordings. So step one is to get your guitar ready. I've got my guy right here. This is the one I'm going to be using for this song. So that means changing your strings. I still have to do that. These are probably about a week old, these strings here. The fresher the strings, the better. If you put your strings on yesterday and then you played your guitar a bunch, then they're not new anymore. It's time to change them. I'm not using anything fancy. These are just regular Ernie's balls. I like thicker strings. I think they sound better. They're a lot harder to play for this style of music, but this isn't about making comfortable. It's about making sound good. So, whatever. I can deal with it. I like to hit the strings really hard, and heavier strings allow me to do that without giving me weird tuning problems. Even with the Evertune, I like the sound of thicker strings. So it is what it is. You want to make sure you double check your intonation just to make sure everything's in tune. There's nothing worse than thinking that your guitar takes are finished, but then they're just really out of tune and you have to redo everything. So just check all that stuff before you start. You also want to silence any strings where they shouldn't make noise. So like foam behind the nut. If you have a tailpiece guitar, this one does not, but if you have like a bridge with exposed strings between the saddles and the tailpiece, you're going to want to probably mute that as well. Any sort of springs in the back of your guitar, I kind of got shorted a little bit on some of the springs didn't have enough of the rubber stuff, so I stuffed some foam in here to make them shut up because I was getting some nasty ring. So that is a potential problem with the Evertune, but it's not enough to make me not like it. It's worth it for all the tuning advantages. That's the other thing is if you don't have an Evertune, you're going to have a lot more tuning things to keep an eye on. This is more about like everything else because that could be a video in itself. It's just making sure that you're staying in tune as you're recording. That's what I love about it is the Evertune, as the string stretches, the Evertune is just compensating for it. So you don't have to stretch out your stuff. Got strings. Okay, gonna check the intonation. All right, we've got fresh strings. I have checked my intonation, which is still good from the last time I checked it, adjusted it, whatever, and we're fucking good to go, dude. Gear, let's talk about gear. So nothing fancy at all here. This is just this solar guitar or solar if you're Swedish or whatever. And the pickups are just stock, so there's nothing fancy going on here. And then I'm going into a DI box, which also is not necessary. There's like one of those like 2% things that, isn't going to make a whole lot of difference. You could just plug straight into your interface. Most interfaces have, DI functionality built in. So, yeah, nothing fancy. Guitar, interface, That's it. And then, oh, you do want to make sure that you have your levels set correctly. So, just make sure that you've got a healthy level and you're not clipping. That's it. Just don't clip. Don't clip and don't make it too quiet. There's a pretty big range in there. So for tones, I'm using Clairvoyant by the modern metal songwriter. These guys have a lot of cool shit. I'll have a link in the description. They're also, their channel is linked on my channel, just because I think there's some good dudes and they're doing cool stuff. So there's a lot of good resources there. Here are my settings. Nothing fancy. EQ's all at noon. May have turned the gain up a little bit. Tilt is at 0. I don't think I'm using that at all. I've got this thing with these settings. It doesn't matter. I mean, just use whatever you want. This is what I happen to be using for this song. Yeah. IR7 and IR2, 50-50 split. That's it. All right. Check that plugin out if you haven't already. And check out some of their other stuff. That's the modern metal songwriter. And then the DI box, don't get hung up on the fact that I'm using a DI box, because it's one of those 2% things. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme. So if you are trying to get, like, if you're like, oh man, I want my guitar to sound like that, and you're not able to get it, it's not, I can almost guarantee you it's not in the gear. And that's what this video is going to be about, is just to show you that, as long as your gear is like adequate, then the rest is up to you and your hands and what you do with them. Oh, the pick. The pick is another one. That's pretty fucking important. For me, I like thicker picks. I recently found these Ernie Ball Prodigy thing. I probably should talk to Ernie Ball. I used to have a deal with them, but that was years ago. Yeah, let's see. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. For years, I was using these Dunlop Tortex Sharps. They're cool. I like them. But basically, what I'm going to be using today is this thing that I took a chance on at Guitar Center. It's the Ernie Ball Prodigy. It's a 1.5 millimeter. It's got like this weird bevel thing on the end. And I didn't really expect it to sound that cool. There's like a little baggie of them in a clearance thing at Guitar Center. And I was like, oh, I'll check that out. And actually, I really dig how they sound, so I've been using that for most of my tracking since then. I need to actually get some more because I'm starting to wear them all out. Make sure it's fresh. This is the one I was practicing with, and it's wearing out a little bit too much. The tip is f***ed, so that's probably going to end up getting recycled or something. As a one-man wolf pack, you can't be bothered with a bunch of technical stuff. Like, once you start rolling, you have to keep your momentum going, so what we're going to do is basically try to set everything up ahead of time, like we're the roadies for the band. So we're going to get everything set up, so then that way when it's showtime, hopefully there's no fucking problems and you can just focus on, being the performer at that point. So since we don't want to be bothered with all the technical stuff, I'm going to be using a lot of like loop recording and stuff, because I don't want to have to with the mouse a bunch. Like, once I'm rolling, I want to just minimal input as far as the engineering side goes. I don't want to be f***ing around with like adjusting things or setting loop points and that kind of stuff. So basically, we're going to do all this prep work stuff, and then once it's ready, we're going to switch hats and become the performer, and then hopefully not have to f*** with technical shit at all anymore until we're done. So that's the goal. We'll be using the loop and comp method for most of this to get super tight recordings of riffs that are basically at the edge of our capability. Some of these riffs are super easy on this song, but like there's a few of them where like I'm trying to do mostly down picking, and it's a little bit challenging for, personally for me. So we're going to be basically cutting stuff into little tiny sections and then focusing on one part at a time. The size of the sections basically, will be determined by how challenging they are for you to play. Like, if you can play the entire fucking song flawlessly, and I mean flawlessly, you probably can't. Most people don't play their own shit flawlessly front to back. If you can, then go ahead and record the whole thing in one take, but pretty much I guarantee you that you're not that good. So it's better to, break stuff up either into individual sections of the song, or even further, like, you might have like a really challenging run or something. You can just have that as your section that you're focusing on. Another quick thing that I want to talk about real quick is I've got that redo button. So like, it's just a foot switch that is basically the R button. So when you're like, damn, how the f does he do that so fast? It's because I have a fucking foot switch. Which is basically a pedal that is connected to my Steinberg control surface thing that works with Cubase. So there's ways to do this in other DAWs, probably with like a MIDI sort of thing. Like if you have a MIDI controller with a foot switch jack, you can probably assign that to do whatever the fuck you want it to do in your DAW. In Cubase, I've got this mode that when I hit the record button, if I'm recording, it does this re-record thing, which clicking record again during a recording cleans up and restarts the recording. So basically it hits stop, it undoes the latest recording, and then it starts the recording again. I'll show you what that looks like real quick. So that's all that foot switch is doing. It's like a do it again button. Yeah, I've got the pedal, but that being said, you know, if you do this quite a bit, you're probably, your hand is probably pretty good at hitting stop and undo and all that stuff pretty quick. So, yeah, if you don't have a pedal, don't worry about it. I've been doing this for about 20 years without a pedal. You know, it's nice to have, but it's not crucial. I'll do a video on it someday, I guess, if you're interested. And then loop recording, if you want a demonstration real quick before I actually get started. You have all these lanes, right? So now you have all of these fucking takes if you just keep doing the loop like that. And that's basically what we're going to be doing. We can get into the zone and focus on our technique rather than all like the engineering stuff. And that's basically the point of the loop, is to like kind of let us just fucking perform. And we just keep going until we don't have any fucking mistakes. And then we trash all the ones that are fucked up. So like, say only this last one was good, no problem. Boom. Then you hit clean up lanes. Boom. Easy. And then the other trick that is handy is a pre-roll. Most DAWs have this. I think I have this, looks like it's set up for 1 bar of a pre-roll. So when that is activated, got a hotkey, it'll actually rewind by 1 bar before you start rolling. So gives you a little bit of a warning. Let's actually set that to 2 bars. 2, motherfucker. Okay. And that's how that works. So now we have the functionality of this session ready to go. We've got our guitar monitor track so that we can hear the guitar. We've got our 2 tracks that we're going to be recording onto. Normally I just keep the 1 track armed and then I just drag keeper takes down to the other track. So there's tons of ways to do it. It might be different, like if the 2 guitar parts, the 2 guitar parts differ a little bit from each other, so I will be probably switching back and forth on a couple things. But the parts where they match, I'm just gonna record on the left side and drag the clips down to the right side to make shit a little bit easier, less mouse clicks. Okay, and then now I'm just gonna fucking show you how I fucking do it instead of talking about it. So here we go.